Hello, I'm Malcolm Jae O'Shea, and this is Mojo Riding. I'm an actor and a comedian, living in Los Angeles, making my dreams come true. And just last year, I got a motorcycle and learned how to ride it. And this channel is my journal as I ride my motorcycle all around Los Angeles, living my actor dreams. From film location, to auditions, to COVID tests, to tourist locations. You name it, I have video footage of me riding my bike there. On this channel, you get to see it all. So please, hit that like and subscribe button, sit back, and enjoy the ride. In this video, we're going to see me riding to a filming location for a project called Gemini Lounge. And stay all the way to the end of this video because I purposely took my time trying to figure out where to park so you can kind of look around what it looks like, the base camp area where we kind of meet. And I'll try to talk through what all you're seeing there as much as I can. Also in this video, you'll see for the first time me filtering through some LA traffic. And it is one of the first times I did filter in Los Angeles traffic, so I'm very cautious in it. I'll try to pause the story at that point and point out what I'm doing, the techniques that I use, explain how you can use that same technique at a little higher speed. But it's definitely more of a filtering than a splitting in this video. And I'm also going to share with you the story of my first time working background on a big studio lot, filming a Thanksgiving episode of the show Superstore. But before my story, I want to take a moment to thank all you for watching the video and welcome you to the channel. If you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button. I have big plans for this channel and lots of footage to share with you. Please, let me know in the comments what you think. This is your channel. I want to know what you want to see. I want to know what you want to hear about. Tell me, what stories do you want to hear? Do you want me to go in chronological order, or do you want me to jump cut to particular stories of interest? Tell me, if there's any particular aspect of the film world that I haven't covered yet that you want to see. I might already have footage of it, and if it's something that I already have footage of, I'll just reprioritize my episode order and get that out there. Tell me in the comments, please. Now for our story. The first job I ever booked through Central Casting was Superstore. Now, how that works is Central Casting, once you register with them and they have your photo and all your information, there's two ways that they can book you on jobs. You can go out to their website and you can look at the listing of people that they need, and if you fit the description, you send out an email to a casting director and let them know that you're available. The other way is Central actually will contact people up front who fit their requirements, and what they do is they send you what's called an availability check. And an availability check is where you get like a text message or an email that says, we would like to see if you're available to work on this show on this specific date. And when they say a specific date, they mean without time restrictions. That means you could be called anywhere from as early as 1 o'clock in the morning till as late as 11 o'clock at night. Anywhere within that time frame, they want to know that you're available to work that day. Typically, if it's a night shoot, they'll let you know, but more often than not, you have to if you're going to tell them you're available, you're going to have to be available for the entire day, just in case. That being said, the very first availability check I got from Central Casting was for Superstore. It didn't book on that one, but the third or fourth availability check I got was also for Superstore, just different dates, and told them I was available, and they basically came back with a booking a couple hours later. They came back and said, we'd like to book you. And they sent another text message, and you respond to that and confirm the booking. Once you've confirmed the booking, you're now booked. That starts a process where they start sending you emails with links to the information and everything that you're going to need for the actual job itself. Typically with Central Casting, they'll give you a website that you go to and a passcode, and you go there and you'll find all your details. They'll tell you what the location is, where to park, what wardrobe to bring. When you're non-union, you have to bring plenty of options for them to pick through. It tells you what you need to know, what time to get there, most importantly, Obviously, you want to allow time for parking. I recommend showing up anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes early, just allow for parking. You get the details. For Superstore, it's actually, most of those episodes are going to be shot at Universal Studios because they have, I believe they might actually have 2 sound stages, but they at least have their own sound stage that actually has the store exterior on it with the store parking lot on the one side of it, and the inside is preset like the store, and I'll get into more detail about that in a minute here. As you can see, the traffic's starting to pick up here. This is what I call more of a lane filtering. It's not really a lane splitting, what you'll see me do here. I take my time and I only go past one car at a time instead of going in between them. And I kind of match their speed but go a little bit faster than them. And that's kind of what I call a filter. Now, splitting is you're going faster than them. But when you split, you do want to do this staggered approach like I'm kind of doing right here. But you can see this big boxy truck here. You definitely don't want to squeeze between that and a car at any speed. The thing that you need to understand when you're filtering through traffic, or especially when you're splitting through traffic, is these cars don't often see you coming up from behind, and they can do all sorts of things. They can, you know, swerve over to avoid something on the lane opposite of you that you can't see. They can open their door to spit outside. They could throw something out their window. All sorts of crazy stuff happens. So that's why, you know, especially, again, in my early riding, I go a little bit more cautious. And I absolutely advise anybody else, you know, learning how to ride motorcycle, if you're going to filter, if you're going to lane split, that you at least be very cautious, especially at first, until you get more comfortable with it. But as you can see, I'm kind of snaking between these vehicles versus like going right in between them. See, I've waited for that. Back to the story. So on the day of filming, I go to Universal Studios. They have you park at the parking structure that I think might be the same that the tourists use for like the amusement park and the tours. Same parking structure, I believe. Really big parking structure. And then they have you walk over to base camp. And base camp is, on most sets in Hollywood, you're going to find base camp is going to be a bunch of trailers and a couple tents. And it doesn't matter if you're on location or even if you're in the studio lots, they'll have the base camp set up outside the sound stages. But you expect to see some trailers, you know, for wardrobe, for hair and makeup, for the principal actors, for bathroom. All that's going to be trailers outside the main set. And then there's going to be tents for the catering area and food. And that was probably the first thing I saw at Superstore when I got on set was the big old catering tent. And the first thing they told me to do was to eat after checking in and getting my voucher. And a voucher, what that is that's just basically proof that you were there, and it's what you have as a receipt to get paid if they don't pay you. And they keep a copy of the voucher that has your information so that they can pay you. So you get there, you get your voucher, and they send you through the breakfast line. And at Superstore and a lot of Hollywood sets, they have a very impressive buffet. This is not a continental breakfast. There was an omelet station with any kind of filling you can imagine for an omelet. I'm a vegan. I don't eat meat. I don't typically eat eggs. They have like tofu and other vegetables at the omelet station, so you can just have them grill up some sauteed vegetables is often what I have them do for me. They had like 4 or 5 different juices. They had all sorts of donuts and pastries. You name it, they had it. Waffles, pancakes. It's just a very nice spread for free because you decided to come to work. Normal set etiquette is stay out of crew's way at mealtime, and they don't hesitate to let you know that on any set. So you just kind of let crew always eats first. They're usually working harder, and they deserve it. So they fed us, and then I think it was either while we were eating or right after we were eating, they gave us a speech. They actually had one of their recurring background players who had been working on Superstore since season 1. I believe her name was Mud. Really nice lady. And she gave the speech for the PA about what to do and what not to do on the Superstore set rules. And Superstore, what you have to understand is that store and all the things on the shelf in that store, and this was part of the speech that they gave us, it's real. They have real items on that shelf. So the first thing they want to let you know is don't mess with anything, especially don't take anything, because it's all approved by lawyers. It's a lot of product placement apparently. So yeah, every little item on that shelf in that show is very detailedly placed. When we shop through the store during the scene, like they say, act like you're shopping, you can take stuff off the shelf. but you're supposed to put it back where you found it on reset every time. And that was kind of their big deal on this set. That was the main thing that they wanted us to know is, you know, it's like a real store, and that we needed to respect it. So after that, they took us over to the wardrobe area, and that's where wardrobe kind of picks through all the options that you brought. I think they basically let me wear the clothes that was on my back, and they gave me like a hoodie sweatshirt to throw over it, because I was to be a customer in the store for this particular episode. They also announced around this point in time that America wasn't going to be there today because there was some sort of personal thing going on, and obviously I can't discuss it as if they told me much detail. So that was a little bit disappointing, because she was definitely the main actor that I was aware of that's in Superstore, so I really wanted to work with her and see her. But have no fear, this wasn't my only time working on Superstore, and if there's time in this episode, I'll talk a little bit about my other time working on Superstore when I did get to work with America. But they did announce that we wouldn't be working with America that day, and that they would be a stand-in in her place, delivering her lines for a couple scenes to just act like normal. And then they brought us out to set once we're in our wardrobe, and the very first scene that they shot, they come around through the background people standing in what's called a holding area close to set, and the PAs or production assistants will go through the crowd and just randomly pick people here and there. I was probably the 5th or 6th person that they picked for the first scene, and then they just go and they place you in the scene. And they placed me, so the scene that they placed me in, they had me grabbing something like I'd just taken it out of the freezer, and then had me walking past the 2 principal actors who were talking in the scene, and then down the aisle and gradually eventually out of frame. So on the very first take, now granted this was my very first time on a big set, my legs froze and my feet felt like they were made out of lead and they were glued to the ground. My whole leg was like stiff, like it felt like I couldn't move it. And then they say background action. I'm like, it was like trying to drag my foot off the ground. It felt like it was impossible. Like I was moving like a centimeter a minute or something, and everything was just like going really slow in my head, and just I got the jitters. And that's the first time that ever really had happened to me. In performing live on stage in front of audiences, but you put me in front of all these cameras and all these big shots, and like say action, all of a sudden my legs just like kind of stuck to the ground. But just through sheer willpower, I'm just like, nope, there's nothing wrong with me, I can move. I just kind of forced myself inch by inch to just keep moving gradually. It was very robotic and very stiff and very awkward looking. But I just kind of got that first step or two going, and then each step after that got a little bit looser, a little bit easier, until I was finally out of frame. And then they called cut and reset, and then I had to do it all over again. And nobody said anything to me, so I'm like, okay, apparently it wasn't that bad. And so like the second time around, when they called background action, I was still stiff, but it wasn't nearly as bad. And I was able to kind of like move through it. And then like the 3rd or the 4th time that we ran the scene, like it was just like walking like normal by that point. But like, yeah, it's just something about that moment of being on camera for the very first time. It literally stuck with me. I'll always remember those first steps because I had a hard time making them. Once that was over with, though, they moved on to another scene where essentially there was a dog food bag that got split open, and I was actually positioned right at the cash register where one of the cashiers was talking to the person who split open the dog food bag. So I had like a front row seat to this scene, and it was very funny. It was very hard not to laugh or interact and just kind of act like a customer, just kind of casually in line witnessing this and not reacting. But yeah, that was funny. And then we had, I think around that time is when they called like a lunch break, probably like 4 or 5 hours in after wardrobe. You know, lunch was just like breakfast. It was a great big spread. They had every type of meat. They had a type of chicken, a type of steak. You know, again, I don't eat that stuff, but I know people like that. You know, they had plenty of vegetables. They had a salad bar. That was my particular thrill. They had a salad bar that had like anything you can imagine that you'd want to put in a salad in that salad bar. I had a great lunch, and then we were right back at it. The next scene that they shot was one where they had all these online orders printing up through this receipt thing, and they're just like pulling them off. And I did a quick camera wipe cross for that, and that's where you literally cross right in front of camera. And that's something they have background players do because it makes it easier to edit, because they can, when you wipe the camera, they can have something different. They have a different take could be before the wipe and a different take could be after the wipe, and you wouldn't know because the wipe kind of just like clears the screen on you. That's kind of a trick they use. They have camera wipes, background players walking right in front of the camera real quick. Therefore, they can use their multiple takes differently. So I did that. Gonna pause the story here for a second. I'm gonna speed up the video here in this tighter traffic, but keep an eye out on the architecture here because we're really close to downtown LA and there's lots of interesting buildings and things to look at. Okay, now back to our story. And then the final scene that we shot that day was actually never used. It didn't make the final cut. It was kind of disappointing because it was a really funny little scene. They'd given me a baby in a stroller. It was a fake plastic baby, but it was very disturbingly real looking. They gave me that, so for continuity purposes, I was wondering, well, how is it gonna, now I have a baby in the store. I don't know if it's the same day or later on. They don't really tell you those details, but I was just in the aisle with this baby. I was looking at picture frames, and then right next to me, they had one of the main actors bringing like a chain of shopping carts just stuffed with items, like all tied together, and like dragging it past. And they did like different takes and different jokes every time, improvising with this chain of carts that they were dragging by. But it was very big and awkward and bulky, and every time they reset, they had to like back the carts up. It's a lot easier to pull the carts than to reverse them, in other words. But I was very sad that scene didn't make it, because that was probably the funniest thing that we shot that day, and it didn't make it. That's what happens. And all in all, though, it was actually a really short day. So after that, they collected the hoodie sweater from me that they gave me for wardrobe, and then I got my voucher back, because they take your voucher when they give you wardrobe items, and then you go to a checkout line where they sign off on your voucher and what time you left, or what time you're out of there, and you go to your car. And you're gone. You're done for the day. It's like Cinderella at midnight. Everything goes back to normal. Okay, so we're getting really close here to the set for Gemini Lounge. As I said earlier, I did work Superstore a second time, and America was there for that time. It was the Valentine's Day episode. She was super cool and super nice, and she actually sat at the same table that they placed me at for the scene, and so I got to see her doing her thing like really, really up close and personal. It was a cool experience as well. But the second time was actually an even shorter day than the first time. It was really just the one scene. I got to wear the Superstore vest though, so I was actually an employee, and in the scene was a conference room meeting. We were actually playing people at a different Superstore in their meeting room as the members from America's Superstore were coming to there to crash the meeting. And so we were sitting there at the table, and then America comes in the room and like interrupts the whole meeting, and she kind of sits at our table. Just a real quick scene. Yeah, it was just a super short day. I had a lot of fun. So you can see here, we're actually getting really close to the location for Gemini Lounge. I'm going to take my time in this parking lot and tell you what you're seeing. So up here ahead is the parking lot. I'm struggling because the sun is blinding me, as you can probably tell. And just, they give you these maps for these things. They're not necessarily all that detailed. And sometimes these parking lots don't look very inviting, or they have signs like $5, and like, I'm not going to pay to park here. Okay, this is the actual parking lot. So as you see all these trailers right off the bat with the Z on there, you see those trailers? That's likely a film set. Those are bathrooms on the far right there. And that building, that brick red building there with the yellow thing on it, that's actually what we used as a sound stage. It's like an abandoned warehouse or whatever. And then pulling up, this is like the check-in table or whatever, where you'll see typically crew or production assistant or somebody else. I think they might actually have crafty going on right here or something. But essentially, that's where you kind of go and tell them who you are. And I'm just kind of sitting here acting like I don't know what I'm doing, asking if I'm on the right spot and where I should park, giving you a chance to look at. See, it says the Willow Studios on the side there. So it It's actually a soundstage in there, and it's really cool. Like every room's made up differently, so you're in like a different place when you go from room to room. And there was the wardrobe was inside. There was a room just full of wardrobe. Yeah, I think the crafty for the most part was actually inside too. So most everything was on the inside of this particular building here. I'm gonna move and I'm gonna park it. So she's gonna park over there. And now Gemini Lounge. I suppose I can talk a little bit about that. I don't know if that film is going to be released or not. As of the filming of this episode, it has not officially been greenlit that I'm aware. Because sometimes they film stuff without necessarily having a plan yet. I just decided not to park it. So, but I played this gangster guy, Irish Boston mobster. After they put me in my wardrobe, I went up to talk to the director and let him see what I looked like, and he's like, "Oh, no." I looked too clean cut, too polished, so they had to change out a couple of my clothing items again. I think I had like a suit thing that I put on because it was like a period piece. So I had this like 70s suit that I brought with me, and it was just too clean, so they ended up changing it up a little bit. I'll put the picture up here so you can see what it looks like. It was that day was actually a really short day. It was just one scene where we're sitting at a table. It's a flashback scene, and the characters are like negotiating thing. We're just these gangster guys at the table looking all mean and tough to kind of move this negotiation along. So it'd be cool if it makes it out there, but yeah. So again, thank you for watching. I hope you liked it.
Garrett, guess what? We sold another one of those VRs.
What? Cheyenne, what are you doing? Get a cart.
No, there's no time. Your rollout of the Z tablets led the region. Whatever you're doing, bottle it up, because I want it in my raw water.
Sandra, it's a real joy to hear you say that. Our store has been working really hard to get our numbers up.
Hey, I know this year's been a tough one for testing, Sandra. As you all may know, retail is new.
Come on, let's go. We gotta go. Hey, this time I'm gonna be heard.
No, you don't have to be here. We gotta leave right now.
I want a car.
I understand you want a car, but she's
Hey, is everything okay back there?
Yes, it's all good. Hey, just coming by to say hey. Hey, Kira. Hey, everybody.
You don't work at the store?
No. It's Amy Sosa from the Ozark Highlands branch. We just had our chat.
Right, the cereal fan.
You remember? That's good. Well, it was nice catching up. Sandra, let's go.
No, I have something to say. I'm Sandra Kaluuya-Kalani, and we demand self-driving cars. I know Zephyr has them, so you